We are going to talk about a movie.
This is going to be a disaster.
It was one of the best movies of the year.
It's gonna go so well. Probably one of the last movies I would ever want to see in a theater.
Hello and welcome to episode 8 of 10 Years On. I am your host, Jacob London, and I am, of course, joined by my wonderful panel today. Taylor, how are you going?
I'm great. We've survived 8 episodes of this by the end of today.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive.
I'm actually slightly impressed by that.
I'm good.
Very impressed.
I'm half ready for this episode. We'll say that much.
Nick, how are you?
8 shocked me as well. I was like, oh, shit. Like, we've firstly survived the stuff we've had to watch, but no one has cancelled us yet, even though you're your own production company. But, you know, these things happen. So we're still on the air, and that's all that matters. I'm going to pass to Peter now.
Peter, how are you?
Thanks. I'm very well. I'm in the same boat. I was like, 8 episodes.
Time flies when you're having
No,
fun.
but I mean, it's
does,
the
it's
case.
true.
Like, we very much enjoy being able to just either love on movies or rip on movies, and like, yeah, it's a good space, and I'm happy that we're at 8, and hopefully here's to 80 more.
It's a good space. We very much enjoy this part of it. The movies, take or leave it. But guys,
But it brought me poster talk, and that's all I've ever needed in my
Actually,
life.
that is the gift that keeps on giving. It really is.
definitely
Like, thank
is.
God we just put that poster. Like, what was the first poster
It was
we
when
did?
in Rome.
Yeah.
Changed everything.
Oh, just Jamal just looking all sexy.
At something. We didn't know what.
Yeah.
To this day, no one knows what he's looking at. It's been
But
10
that
years.
was definitely the highlight that has become its own.
I definitely look at the posters now.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we going to talk about this week? I get super excited for it.
Well, guys, let's move on to our first film. We have 2 wide release films this week. I think we might start with the one that we all kind of enjoyed, at least, like we're all pretty on board with, and that is The Crazies. After a strange and insecure plane crash, an unusual toxic virus enters a quaint farming town. A young couple are quarantined, but they fight for survival along with the help of a couple of people.
What the fuck is an insecure plane crash? What the fuck?
I guess if a plane crashes, it's pretty insecure in the sky.
I don't know if I'm that good at flying anymore.
Wait a second.
Like, oh, I love how, like, you can't see it, but as soon as he said insecure, we all just, like, in silence were like, what?
We were like,
wait,
went
let him finish. But Jesus, who writes this drivel?
Welcome to IMDb because I'm lazy.
well, I'm going to say I actually really dig this poster.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, that is an
It is a really cool poster.
atmospheric
I feel like
poster.
it's everything that it needs to be because it gives you the vibe that obviously this is not going to end well for people. Like, it gives you that vibe.
It's
Great.
creepy.
Great tagline.
I love
that
Fear
tagline.
Thy Neighbor.
Yes.
Yeah.
That pretty much tells you all you need to know as well. Like,
Yeah.
oh, my neighbor is going to kill me with a pitchfork. Yes.
I'm in.
It's simple to the point, but I love the way that it's framed. It's not just like a boring kind of straight shot. It's
Yeah.
like done so well for what it is.
I remember the DVD cover for this was just a close-up of Timothy Olyphant and Ryder Mitchell as well. So I much prefer this one.
It was like typical, like,
yeah.
'cause
These are the stars.
Did this go to cinemas in Australia?
I don't
I feel like it.
think
I don't
so.
think it did.
I think we were straight to DVD.
Yeah, like,
we
because
were
I remember
too.
thinking it was one that I wanted to see.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of like, oh, it's just rocked up at Civic Video.
$6.95 new release rental. Get that one.
Wow.
But-
I have typed out every Australian released film over the next year in this document, and I can't remember writing it.
Yeah.
I'm,
so I don't think
I'm
it
pretty
did,
sure
yeah.
it went straight to DVD here,
Which
which is a shame
sucks.
because it wasn't a flop.
No.
It's a pretty damn good movie
I
for
really-
what it is.
I really had a lot of fun
really
with
liked
this.
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, but again, you're right. This is a great poster for
Yes.
what it is, for everything it needed to be. It tells the story in a frame. Like, it tells
Yeah.
you exactly what, this is going to be a gory, bloody mess. and that is exactly what it is.
I just
in the
realized,
best
that's
possible way.
like there's blood.
Yeah.
In my mind, I was like, oh, that's just because it's hit the ground so hard. No, that's blood.
It's blood.
That's blood.
From all the neighbors that died.
Yes. Well, let's talk about the Crazies. You've already mentioned it. This is great. This is a lot of fun. This film is just a lot of fun, and it's violent and gory as hell in the best possible way.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't really know what to expect out of this movie, honestly. I hadn't really heard much about it, had never seen it before, and I just really enjoyed the journey that it took you on because it just gets straight into it. It doesn't mess around with like any sort of crazy 20-minute backstory for anyone. Doesn't, it just goes straight into, oh, there's a guy walking in the middle of a minor league baseball game with these kids, and he looks really fucking creepy and has a gun.
Yeah.
Straight into it. Here we go. I love that. I thought it was so good to do that.
I love the climax of that bit where it was, in a horror movie, you'd probably expect a bit of carnage. He might start shooting people. But then when you get the fact that Timothy Olyphant just shoots him straight away, you're like, this is the guy I want to fuck around with on the horror movie. Like, this is the guy I want to be following. And then from there... You said about the poster how it's like simple and straight to the point, but that's exactly what this movie is, and that's why it works, because it doesn't try and be anything else other than we're gonna throw you into this premise. It's crazy, it's a lot of fun. We're gonna kill a fuckload of people for you, and we're gonna make it really violent, and you're gonna enjoy it. And you sit there and go, okay, that's what I'm in for, and it delivers.
I think this is a really good example of kind of things that we have picked on other movies for a little bit in terms of. Clearly, there wasn't a lot of location going on, really, in this movie. Like, they move around, but it's not anything extravagant. It probably was all filmed within a 10-mile radius of each other on the same sets. But there are things happening. Like, things are happening the whole movie. You're not just sitting in the same town, even though you are in the same town. But it's
that's the trope horror movies fall into, is like when they have that classic scene where everyone's just like sitting around the campfire. It's like, oh man, the world's gone to shit. And it's like, they're just like, well, the world's gone to shit and we got to do something about it. And then, but the movie throws the curveballs at you. It's like when Ryder Mitchell gets taken away, it is a creepy fucking moment in the film, which is where the pitchfork scene comes into play, which is arguably one of the scariest and most tense things I've ever watched in my life. The pitchfork scene to me, I think, is at least in the decade one of the best horror scenes, and I'm so upset I hadn't seen this movie before this. I genuinely love the pitchfork scene.
Because I'd seen this probably like 10 years ago when it came out to DVD, and then we were going to rewatch it. I was like, I'm going to watch the original so that way I can at least see how it adds up. And the original film was George Romero. That's right. And obviously, like, when you watch a movie from the 70s, you've got to take away, like, we've got to look at it as what it was for its time. But I remember thinking that movie felt very incomplete. And so watching the remake was good to sort of see if this was, like, super faithful or if it was quite loose. And it's, like, the codename Trixie, for what they call the biohazard, that is the original title of the original movie. So it's also known as Codename Trixie.
Okay.
Right.
And it is still a plane crashes in the water and that infects the town. So it uses all of that. But Timothy Olyphant and Ryder Mitchell's character names are the same names as the original two.
Oh, cool.
But other than that, it very much takes its own identity and its own story, because the original focuses a lot on the army coming in, focuses on like a doctor trying to find a cure. Then the main characters meet up with a father and his daughter, and then he tries to like rape the daughter because he's getting infected. Like, it sort of, I'm glad that didn't
There's
go
like there's not of the rape, but there's elements of that later on in the film when we think Timothy Olyphant is getting the house they go to.
Yeah.
But I liked that it took elements of the original, but then was like, we're very much going to make our own story and you can watch us both. You can watch the original and this one together. You can watch this one by itself. And this is a rare case where I think the remake is vastly superior. I think it works so much better with its premise or compared to the original, which it felt incomplete because at the end, like, everyone pretty much dies.
Yeah.
The main character realizes he's immune, and like his wife dies, and like, you know, so the Radha Mitchell character
Lovely.
dies, and then this army guy is like, oh, all right, we're off to the next town, and he's gets airlifted off, and then it just ends. And I'm a bit like, and I know that this one sort of does the same thing where you realize they're just going into the next town, which is probably going to be
infected
as well,
But
yeah.
this one just felt, the open ending felt a bit more natural.
Well, it's kind of fun, that ending, when it's them looking at the next city, and then we get that satellite view again from the army. So
Exactly. Well, and I think the difference, just from what you've said very simply there, is one, it's just like, oh, he's getting rescued now, he's airlifted, it's fine in the original. And this one you go, are they fine?
Yeah.
Is the next town not fine?
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, the next town doesn't look like it's fine. And so you don't...
And that's fun.
And it's
Yeah.
fun. Whereas if they just got airlifted at the end, you'd be like...
Like, you've just
Oh.
left this whole town to perish,
Okay.
and this guy gets saved.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
cool. Whereas
Interesting.
there's like, not having a happy ending in this case is like, I like this ending
Yes.
because you guys are in this together, and like whatever the next adventure brings you.
Well, and the thing is, I mean, I don't... If you were gonna try and apply like a real world kind of perspective onto this, it would spread at
Oh,
some... Like, there
absolutely.
would be
Yeah.
other
Oh, yeah, sure.
towns, and you wouldn't know which towns were safe to go to, or
Yeah.
where, like... So that's just interesting to
It's
kind of
awesome.
leave it like... Well, they're about to drive somewhere and hope for the best because no one knows what
They
the hell.
start driving, and then the army nukes the fuck out of their
Yep,
town.
yep.
And then they're gonna like, oh, guess we're walking to the next city.
And I like that it sort of plays with when someone starts acting irrationally. You're like, are you just acting irrationally because
Yeah.
of your situation, or have you been infected?
Yeah.
And I like that the film, there's some characters you're like, I'm just not, like, I don't know. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know whether you're reacting the way that most people probably would. Like, I'm
The
freaking
uncertainty adds so much tension to the
Yeah.
movie, and that's why I think it was a lot of fun, because by the sounds of the original, it's just like putting too many fingers in too many pies, whereas this one's like, no, we're just going to follow the cop and his wife, and even when they get split up, like, there's still, you're invested in both stories just as equally. So this movie's brutally violent.
It definitely
It definitely goes there, and I'm kind of glad that it does.
Yes.
And it just, like we've been saying, leans into what it is instead of what it seems like the original tried to do, where they're trying to find a cure. Because let's be real, if this happened in the US of A, the first reaction would be fucking tanks and military and shut that
Everyone
down.
has the right to bear tanks now.
There would be no
know.
like cure first, army later. Like
Yeah.
that's exactly
I mean,
not what would happen.
we're kind of seeing that at the moment. like, and not in like all kind of seriousness, is we're seeing how people would react to something not of that scale, but like of that deadly
With the
scale. But with the
coronavirus.
coronavirus, the way that, you know, just shut everything down, just absolutely
Yeah.
like just quarantine, shut everything down.
China's
And
just
then-
like, we're not a country at the moment. Like, no one.
No
can come
entry,
in.
no
like,
exit.
and
Yeah.
it's and that, I think that really does play well into it. I think this is a film, and I will get into this later, but I think it's a film that is fantastic for 2 acts. I don't love the ending.
Oh, okay.
I think the third act is the weakest act of the movie. I think because that's when it becomes its most tropey. That's when it becomes
Yeah.
mostly like the action-packed part of
Yeah.
the horror film. It's
Well-
not bad, but it's just weak.
But it's funny because in the original, the cure stuff, like, they almost play it like you're not sure if the doctor has got a cure or he's just crazy and delusional saying he's got one. But he does bring out like a vial and be like, you know, you need to listen to me. And then he ends up getting like trampled to death. So it's like, oh, so he, even if he did create something, you'll
never know.
Your pack mentality just killed him.
Yes.
So you'll never know. So you're basically just dooming yourselves, even though if there's literally a cure handed to you. Yeah.
But it's definitely like there's a lot about this film that I really love in that first 2 acts. I do think the third act does lean really heavily into horror tropes. There's about 3 jump scares that are the oh hi, I'm trying to see you jump
Yeah.
scares that frustrate me in horror movies.
That
but
doesn't bother me.
I-
Not in this movie, because if someone fucking touched me in this movie at any point, I'd be like, what the don't you fucking dare touch me right now.
that's fair.
Like, I just, to me, it fits where, like, you don't know who's crazy, you don't know who's not crazy. The freaking diner, all the lights have gone out and no one knows what the fuck's going on, and all of a sudden someone's touching. Nah, I would have a heart attack and die.
I love some of the. I just want to touch on the violence again because there is one act of violence to me that I just feel like, yeah, I love violence, Peter. There's one act that Timothy Olyphant pulls off that firstly is incredibly creative, but I was like, this is what horror movies get to play around with, and he's been stabbed in the hand.
That is actually probably the one that hurt me the most because I'm like, that, like, when there's like zombies and undead people and pitchforks, you're like, it's going to that like extreme.
Yeah.
When it's like a knife in hand, you're like, that could
So
happen.
the knife's in the hand and the knife's in the ground, and he is sliding his hand up the knife.
Jacob's gonna throw up.
But then he manages to pull the knife out of the ground and then slam it into someone's neck, and I just went, yes. I was like, that's the kill I want.
Jacob was about this close to just like passing out.
It's gross. Don't get me wrong.
I can't.
No,
Knives are.
he
Yeah.
Feel it,
in
man.
the scene in Color Out of Space. I thought he was gonna leave.
Yeah.
I still have nightmares about that scene. So
Go watch that fucking movie. It was so good.
It's
It was
just
so
hands and knives. That's all you need to know.
Not me and knives. Knives.
The knives are out.
Okay.
Did you ever like slice your hand open or anything?
No,
as a kid?
I
That never
haven't.
happened,
No,
or-
it's
yeah.
no, it's just.
You just know.
For a minute there, I thought you said, have you ever watched Slice Your Hand Open? And I was like, that is a great movie if that hasn't been made. Nicolas Cage, you make a Slice Your Hand Open.
This has now turned into a group therapy session.
No, but it's just on the mentioning that character who he does that to.
Yes.
Because she's the wife of the person he shoots at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
I did like that they sort of took the emotional aspect of how he was like, well, I shot him because he pulled his gun on me. Like, most of those movies, it's like he gets shot and then there would be this big, like, I don't know, he'd be like celebrated for it. I like the fact that he was like held accountable. He was like, I only did it because he held a gun on me at a child's baseball game and I didn't know what he was going to do.
And that the family
he feels like really cut up
Like,
about it. Like, he's like, I didn't want to be the police officer that shoots someone who didn't do something to me, but he had a gun.
But I also like that they're going, he was, oh no, he was drunk. And then they go, no, he was a year sober, and you know how much that meant to him. It was, they really played on him going, oh no, did I mess up? Like, did I make a mistake?
That's written.
And that's what I like I said, like there are things about this movie I really love. Like, I think they do so much so well. And that is one of them. I think they actually open this film really tensely and really like get you invested in both of their characters really quickly.
Yeah.
And that's hard for a horror film to do. Like most horror films, they put in the trope character to get you invested.
And but then also like, well, you're going to get picked off and you're going to get picked off and you're going to get picked off. Whereas this one, you're like, I'm not going to be surprised if Timothy Olyphant dies.
Well, exactly,
Like,
because
I don't know.
the trope in Hollywood is you killed someone, quote unquote, innocent, you have to die.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, okay, well, that's where they're going to go, and they never do. And that's I think the way the story plays out is very well handled, and I do think that they actually tell a really interesting and original. Like, I know it's a remake, but it's original. Like it feels. This doesn't feel like a typical horror zombie film. I think it's actually
I can't
like
say
fairly.
I've seen another movie like this one.
Yeah, I think they do it fairly well, and it's very entertaining and very enjoyable. I really enjoyed it.
And I also just want to say, like, Timothy Oliphant,
I love him.
he does not get
Anyway,
nearly enough
He's a
credit.
fucking
I think he is a
MVP.
great actor. He can do, like, genres across the board. He's a bloody handsome fellow. I just think he's like, you're someone who should be, everybody should know who you are. And I feel like everyone sort of, like, knows his face, or when they see him, they go, oh, it's that guy. But I'm like, he deserves to be, like, headlining like a franchise.
I feel like that's him though. I feel like he's like, yeah, man, I'm cool.
He
doing
took,
this
he
shit.
took a lot of the brunt for Live Free or Die Hard. Like Die Hard, like he took a lot of the
good in
brunt for
that.
that. I know he
That's
is
the crazy
he
part.
is good in it, but he took a lot of the heat for that
Right.
movie, which is unfortunate
And
because
then
it's not his fault.
he also had Hitman.
He'll always be Mickey. Scream 2.
True.
Yeah, true. Well, let's move on to, speaking of Die Hard 4, let's move on to their the other film Kevin Smith and Bruce Willis did together, Cop Out.
Yeah, that about sums it up right there.
Can I just say, so Tracy Morgan actually showed up for the photo shoot. Bruce Willis refused, so he was superimposed in. That's why it looks a bit more natural, the background in Tracy Morgan, and Bruce Willis is like...
Looks like cardboard cutout. Yeah.
Because
He was.
as we will further discuss, it's not a happy person to work with. So
All right, let's hear the synopsis.
this will be fun.
Jimmy's rare baseball card is robbed. Since it is his only hope to pay for his daughter's upcoming wedding, he recruits his cop partner Paul to track down the robber, a memorabilia-obsessed gangster. So,
Starring Bruce Tracy and Willis Morgan.
I love that Willis Morgan guy. He is great.
let's talk about this poster.
I mean, I'm sorry, but the name Bruce Tracy is just sending me on a journey right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Dick
look,
Tracy's long lost cousin.
This
No,
it's such Photoshop, and it's bad.
it's not great. It's not great. It feels like one of those situations where you go, oh, were they even in scenes in the movie together? Because clearly they couldn't stand together for a photo for 10 seconds. Like, this is... And neither of them look like their faces just aren't...
Yeah, what is
like,
that?
what?
That's that Tracy Morgan's.
I don't know.
No, but that's the thing that, obviously talk about in the movie, but Tracy Morgan's going for, I'm the derp. I'm like the... Yeah, and, he never comes across like
No.
he's meant
No.
to be a cop. I was like, you've been employed for
9 years.
a while now.
And you are not good at your job.
Yeah, I get that you're comic relief, but
In the
it
comedy.
never comes like Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop. I was like, even though he was cracking jokes, I still believed he was
A police officer, yeah.
officer. Tracy Morgan, I was like, you're the ride along guy, right?
Oh.
And Bruce Willis, you're just fuck him.
They
Seriously.
felt like they were in the intern department of
Yeah.
the police
We'll
station.
give these guys a trial run and see how they go.
We won't pay them. We'll just let them hang around and
Yeah.
see what happens.
Because maybe they'll really like each other. They don't
It's-
like each other.
No.
Oh no! This
The background stories to this movie is so much more interesting. Just
Then
hearing
the movie,
about how much
yeah.
fuckery went on with making this movie.
So with that, let's actually talk about Cop Out. So I hated Tooth Fairy. I hated Tooth
you
Fairy.
didn't like that movie.
Tooth Fairy, I thought there could not be a worse film.
Oh, are we about to hear that this is worse?
This is worse than Tooth Fairy. I hated this movie.
No, that's
I
fair.
really hated this movie.
We were sitting there at one point, and you went, "Oh, there can't be that much of this movie left." And I hit pause, and there was still an hour left of the movie.
and I wanted to cry.
And it just was one of those things where you went, "Oh, it's been an hour and nothing has happened." And Tracy Morgan has tried to be funny for an hour, and none of it has landed. And Bruce Willis is just has shown up on set, and he's on camera, and that's about what we're getting
on
here.
the days that he decided to show up on set.
Ugh, it was just... this is definitely my worst movie we've seen so far.
Yeah.
By easily.
Yeah.
But let's ask
no,
Nick
I'm
what he
leaving him
thinks.
till no, he is going last because he
So
is.
Peter, let's
What
hear
did you
your
think,
thoughts.
Peter?
It's not good.
No.
In any way, shape, or form, and none of it landed.
No.
Because I'm currently in the midst of 30 Rock binge, so I'm Tracy Morgan can be funny, but clearly he can't be funny when he's not given good material. Because in this one, I was like, shut up, stop talking. None of it is funny. It's just annoying. Bruce Willis is pissed off, so I sympathize with Bruce Willis, but only because shut up. And he Bruce Willis is he's so angry and he's so bored. And then when you read about why, you're like, it completely comes off on screen. Like, there are people you read about who didn't like working together, but they somehow have amazing chemistry.
Yeah.
I mean, the Notebook.
The
example.
They didn't like each other.
No.
Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy hated each other during Mad Max. But they at least on screen, you're like, I don't really feel like that, you know. I mean, their characters are butting heads, but still.
It's not to the point where the film is suffering because they can't work together.
Yeah.
They're channeling it.
Like, you feel Bruce Willis's contempt for this.
Yeah.
And then there was a scene where they were meant to talk. Bruce Willis was like, I don't want to talk. So then they just went, let's give all the lines to Tracy Morgan. So, like, now he's talking even more.
Just
and
what
it's
Peter
just
wanted.
rambling shit.
There's a scene that I don't know why, but it's stuck in my mind forever. And it's the scene where they're sitting there in the station and they're talking to each other on the phone while they're sitting right next to each other. And the other two cops that just gets fucking stuck with them all the time.
Adam Brody and
fucking...
The guy who does the Christopher Walken
I can't-
impersonations. I can't remember
Kevin
his
Pollak.
name.
Yeah, Kevin Pollak. And that scene to me is just a summary of the movie because it's them two clearly not wanting to actually talk to each other, but so they're talking on the phone next to each other.
Yep.
Neither of them are being funny, even though every single line is meant to be a joke.
Oh.
And none of it's funny.
Yeah.
And then you have two far superior actors standing there getting to do fuck all because the two people who are actually supposed to be carrying the movie are just...
That's it.
Like...
It's really one of those movies where you go, oh, you wrote this thinking this will get a massive laugh. And you're sitting there going, I'll wait for it. It's not here. Oh, the scene end. Oh, that scene wasn't funny at all.
And half of this script is just pop culture references that don't belong anywhere.
No.
Like, they're not funny, and they're just so random that you're like...
That's the Kevin Smith touch right there.
But
But it's
Kevin
not,
Smith
though.
can do
No,
it
it's
well.
not.
He
Kevin
didn't
Smith
write it.
didn't
This
write
is-
it.
Script. I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think he had more influence than we think.
Like,
Ah.
if Kevin Smith wrote this, I feel like there would have at least been a couple of decent jokes.
That's what I mean,
Yes,
though.
I agree.
None of it was good.
Like, this was very much like Kevin
It-
Smith admitted he was just like, I did this. It was like a paycheck movie.
Yeah.
But then he wanted to work so desperately with Bruce Willis.
Willis.
Like,
Yeah.
they worked together on Die Hard 4. And it makes me sort of think, clearly, your experience on Die Hard 4 wasn't terrible because you...
They did a featurette
They
on
did
Die
a
Hard
scene
4. Like,
together.
no, but then
And
they
then-
actually did a behind the scenes
Yeah.
featurette talking about the impact of Die Hard. So clearly there was a friendship there,
Yeah.
and this movie broke him.
that.
Yeah.
Like,
Which is, I mean, it's probably like...
oh.
Bruce Willis is probably like, hey, this guy like loves all my work. I'll like him. And then when he's given this to work, like Bruce Willis said that Kevin Smith only got high and very rarely interacted with the cast, where Kevin Smith was like, Bruce Willis is a dick and doesn't listen to anything I say.
Yeah.
And you're more likely in that case to go, I think Bruce Willis is a dick.
I mean, it's not like we've heard that about him before, right?
No, like it's like the first time
Yeah.
ever. Like he seems like such a wonderful person.
So this movie was basically just a train wreck from all perspectives.
Not my perspective.
Here we go.
Look, no, this movie's shit.
We're
Don't
gonna
get me
get
wrong.
comments like, "Why is Nick on this show? Why is Nick on this show?"
Don't worry, guys. I
No,
asked
or-
myself the same
Or
thing.
it'll be like, that Nick guy knows what he's talking about. Well, how dare you slander the name of Kevin Smith and Bruce Willis?
Nick,
like
have
this.
you seen Joker? You'd love it.
But you did, though.
Yeah. So,
So what'd you think of the movie, Nick?
I really like this movie, guys. It's not good. Don't get me wrong. I actually think it's an awful, awful movie. I agree. I think the script is shit. It is way too long. But there is enough times in this movie where I laughed, where I could just sit. It's the perfect movie for me, where I watched it at a time of night where I was like, I got to fucking watch this movie because I'm not going to get it watched in time of the podcast.
I like this movie out of necessity.
Oh, shit, yeah, absolutely. Oh, I loved it when I was 15. I remember seeing this at the cinemas when I was 15, and I laughed my ass off.
Oh, you know what? I didn't see it 10 years ago because I'm older and wiser than everyone else.
I didn't see it 10 years ago either.
So, I'm not going to argue any of your points, but I'm just going to put forward what I like about this movie.
Okay.
Sean William Scott's fucking great in this movie.
Oh.
I know. I loved him in this movie.
He was almost more annoying than Tracy.
Nah, I loved him. Loved him. I thought he was funny as.
You know what I loved? Because clearly Sean William Scott was a bit he's a bit heavier in this than he was when he was his gaunt
Stifler days.
And then when his character is parkouring up the thing, I was like, that guy up the thing is slender. And then it cuts to Sean William Scott who's like, "Whoa!" And you're like, nah, that's just. And then there's one scene where Bruce Willis jumps into a window and it's like a dark, it's like a tan head. I was like, did they get Dwayne Johnson to do this movie?
I found him really funny.
I'm not gonna lie. The one, so I laughed twice in this movie. That was the only time
That's
I laughed.
two more than I expected.
I laughed twice. One, because I'm an idiot, was the yippee-ki-yay moment. That got me. I don't know why.
That
and
whole
I just,
movie monologue thing at the beginning is very odd. Though.
It is.
It is.
awful.
It's so
It is.
awkward.
It was very much just let's just talk about other movies.
Yeah.
And it'll be
it was
fun.
absolutely awful. I don't know what. And then Yippee-ki-yay got me, and I hated myself
I've
afterwards.
never seen that movie, and I'm like, that's funny.
That just.
That was filmed early on.
yeah. And the other bit that I laughed at was when he died. I thought that was actually kind of funny.
Like the post.
No, the first bit, when you actually think he died. I thought, yeah, I was like, okay, that's pretty funny. But
then when he comes back in the morgue,
yeah,
that's weird.
That was a weird.
I was like, that is.
Yeah.
Weird.
Trust me, I know this movie sucks, but it's just one of those ones that I'm more than happy to chuck on late at night and just sit back.
I've seen I think we've seen this movie twice in a lifetime.
I've seen it once in a lifetime.
I've seen it once.
And that's all I
you're
need.
the only one here.
I've only seen it twice.
Yeah, you're the only one who's
Well,
seen
you
it
know
twice.
what? Never again.
No, you are definitely the only one who's seen it twice because I have seen it many more than 2 times. I'm not gonna lie. There is one scene though. There is one scene in particular where every time I watch it, I piss myself laughing. And it's when Tracy Morgan is reenacting what he thinks is going on between his wife and the neighbor. And he's doing things like... No one else found that funny?
I completely forgot about that whole fucking
so
storyline.
funny. The storyline sucks. But it's when they're like, it's that fantastical sort of porno vibe thing, and he's in his robe and his undies. I'm laughing my ass off, and he's like, "Oh, Dickie, do you?" from behind, and that line gets me. But then he says, "monocle wearing motherfucker," which makes. It's just a jab at the guy, and it's that quick 3-second cut to the guy wearing the monocle with the... I laughed my ass off. I thought it was hilarious.
It makes me sad that Rashida Jones said yes.
I did not laugh a single time. Not once. Not once in this movie. I was so upset because it's just... It's painful to me, physically, when it's supposed to be a comedy. And you can tell that the comedian in the movie just is not landing anything. It hurts.
Aggressive.
It was written
one
by
of these things is gonna land and
writers.
get a joke, and you're like, none of it will.
It was
but
written
Nick
by dudes who
will
write
laugh,
action.
so
Yeah, but I'd laugh at everything.
congratulations,
So.
cop out.
Speaking of physically hurting while watching the movie, the fucking baseball bashing thing where he sits there and he hits baseballs back at people. I was like, that's fucked. That would be cool in another movie.
I honestly,
You're
I don't
talking
remember
about
that scene.
scenes, and I'm just like, did I watch this
Guys,
movie?
I don't remember.
This is the most research I've done on it. No, it's not.
It was when the villain, and that's how he tortures.
That's how he tortures people. He
the
chains
people.
them
He
up,
chains
and
them up, and then
he's
he
in the
gets.
batting cage,
Oh.
and he hits the baseballs back at them.
Yeah, that's
Sure.
how
Vaguely.
it's in one scene.
Guillermo Diaz is
It's actually- it's
the
two
Oh, sorry.
white
No,
boy.
it's in one scene, and then he goes to do it a second time, and he doesn't do it.
Bad guy, speaking of him, is the worst overactor I've ever seen. I've never seen someone consistently keep their eyes so wide open. It was actually insane. He was making me uncomfortable.
And what's
Not
sad
a
is
good
he
one.
is
that
he
part
is
makes you
actually
uncomfortable.
he is good in Scandal. That guy,
I've
that
never
guy
seen
is
him in anything
actually
else.
talented in Scandal.
And shout out to High School High.
What year did that come out?
Came out in 1995. I was, double
Hey.
digits by then.
I was born. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make any sort of comments.
well, yeah.
I think
Movie's
that's...
bad.
Would not recommend.
So I'm going to piss you off even more.
Great.
Do you realize the whole movie's irrelevant because the card gets shot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that. How did you feel? I want to, because you guys seem very upset by this movie. How did you feel when he pulls out the
See,
card and it's shot and you go,
care.
nothing matters?
The problem is I didn't feel anything because by that point I forgot that was the whole point of the movie in the first place. Like
The description
I
making
didn't
about
even-
the baseball card, I was like, it is not about the. It's really not.
it's not.
Oh, no, it's
like
really about nothing.
because at that point I'm like, why does this even matter? Because at the beginning, like it just. But I'm like, I feel like I've lived 400 years.
And it's like, I need the baseball card to sell it because like my daughter is getting married and I need to pay for a wedding.
And
'cause I don't
Jason
wanna look
Lee
like
wants to
cheapbag.
pay
And then
for
Jason Lee, fucking awful cameo, but like Kevin Smith. Yeah. And then like, it's just like, I don't know, let the guy pay for the wedding.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
I mean, but
Pride,
guys,
I
male
get it.
pride. Okay.
I know,
Yeah,
like,
true.
oof. Sorry, I'm thinking from like, you know.
Well, no, we got the epitome of the male pride when it's like, well, can you both say we're giving the daughter away? And then he's like, yeah, I'll do it. And then Tracy Walker's like, sit down,
Yeah.
motherfucker.
At the wedding,
He's like, yeah, he can do it.
the way that he says that is so loud that it's like, how
think
is no
Tracy
one else
Morgan
like,
can
as
whisper.
if like the bride would be like, what the fuck is happening? But then it's like, oh, it's played off as if he's just gone, like he's whispered it, and I was like, no, he.
But he's
said
Tracy
that.
Morgan. He's like, sit down, motherfucker.
Like, and then it's like,
Everyone's like,
no one else saw
it's a
that.
wedding.
Oh,
This movie's not good. No, I'm not saying it's good, but I liked it. But I mean, I also have 4 brain cells left after half the shit I've had to watch this year.
So that was Cop Out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm genuinely terrified if there is a worse movie this year.
I know. I don't want to put that out in the universe because that's an invitation.
Right now,
but,
I have seen Last Airbender. I don't think it's worse than this from memory. Like, I don't think it's worse.
Big call.
we're about to find out.
We're
I
gonna find
guess.
out.
because you did also think Percy Jackson was good.
Yes, I thought it was good, and then I was reminded it's not.
See, that's progress. That's not like me, who was like, I love Cop Out.
who's
I like Cop Out.
regressing.
It's like, actually, I think I like this more, Ted.
I can really like reflect on it and be like, hey, it's like this existential crisis of like nothing matters because the card got shot.
Well, I think
Should we,
that
move on
let's
to,
move on because Cop Out, what a piece of shit. Limited release films this week: The Art of the Steal, The Yellow Handkerchief, 45365, Prodigal Sons, Formosa Betrayed, and the Academy Award winning A Prophet. All came out. This
Seen a
week.
Prophet. That's a good movie.
How was he? Sorry.
That is all the limited release films. Let's move on to weekend box office.
Said my future wasn't bright because I like Cop Out. That's what he said.
Oh god! All right, retaining the number 1 spot was Shutter Island with $22.6 million.
Nice.
Not bad.
Cop Out opened to $18.2 million, and then the Crazies opened to $16 million, which is not bad. However, when Cop Out opened to $2.2 million more than it is slightly heartbreaking. Avatar opened to held at number 4 with $13.6 million. Percy Jackson to $9.5 million. Valentine's Day to $9 million. So Percy Jackson opened the lowest of the 3, and it's now higher than the 3 after
like
2
Wolfman's
weekends. Wolfman
gone.
is coming. Dear John with $4.8 million. Wolfman with $4.2 million. Tooth Fairy with $3.4 million. And Crazy Heart somehow still hanging on with $2.4 million. Dropped off from last week is From Paris with Love, dropped from 9th. And Edge of Darkness dropped from 10th. I no longer have to stuff up that name. All right.
Here we
In
go.
major movie news, WB officially hire David Goyer to write the next Superman film titled The Man of Steel.
The Man of Steel?
Yes,
The-
at that time it was
yes.
The Man of Steel. So he had been working on Dark Knight Rises at this point, and then couldn't finish the 3rd act and decided, hey, he had to walk away to go work. So they walked away to work on the 3rd act. He came about 2 weeks later, came back to Nolan and went, so I didn't do that. Here is a draft for Superman. And that was basically what happened.
Oh,
So,
I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
The second news is Angelina Jolie drops out of Wanted 2 to make Gravity with Alfonso Cuarón, effectively killing Wanted 2. Ultimately, she wouldn't be in Gravity with Alfonso Cuarón, but we will get to that later. But the big news from this week, the search for Captain America continues with John Krasinski, Scott Porter, Garrett Hedlund, and Jensen Ackles all a part of the shortlist. Captain America is the last piece of the puzzle for Marvel's Avengers to be cast, with Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man and Chris Hemsworth as Thor already cast. While it has not been made public yet at this point, Chris Evans had already been offered the role and was still deciding.
I remember when he was apprehensive at the start, or like when he was actually promoting the movie, he was like, it was scary to take on, like Marvel's got big contracts with lots of time that you have to be dedicated to Marvel stuff. So I remember all that.
Yeah, so at this point he has been offered. So so he has the offer of you can be Captain America, and he hasn't said yes or no because, and as he says it, it's a 6-film contract.
If it goes well.
Yeah, if it hits, I'm fucked because I'm in a 6-film contract. If it misses, I'm fucked because I'm the guy who screwed up Captain America.
And like I know, in his casting also, there was I don't want to say backlash, but because he was Johnny Storm in Fantastic Four, there was a lot of like, oh, but he was already that guy, and like those Fantastic Four movies weren't incredibly well received.
No.
I mean, I love them.
I don't think they're bad.
I think they're super fun,
like the
but
like
first
they,
one.
yeah, I have fun with him, and I think he's great in the
I
role
think
of
I
Johnny
actually
Storm.
He's really good.
I think the casting of those movies, the 4 of them, is good.
Yeah,
But I also the other thing with Chris Evans at the time was Captain America is obviously the very stoic, very non-bad boy of the group, and Chris Evans was very well known for playing the bad boy.
Yeah.
Like that was his typecast really at that point, and we had never seen him do the complete opposite of can you be this ultimate good guy, like
And he
basically
really
Superman.
He can.
Oh,
He's
he
so good.
fucking can.
Oh.
We will get his cast soon.
But
We
I
will
do
get
think
that.
I do think that shortlist is very interesting.
It is.
Because at that point in John Krasinski's career,
He was
He was just Jim
Halpert.
He's not the action star that we know he is now.
Yeah, I mean, he's still Jim because Office is still on at this point.
yeah.
Like he's still Jim. Scott Porter had just. We literally were just watching him in a movie, and I can't remember what movie it was.
Dear John.
That's right. Yeah, he was in that.
Friday Night Lights.
And Garrett Hedlund
he gets Tron this year.
Yeah.
So
and like Jensen Ackles, I'm guessing is all the supernatural.
like that's really all Jensen has.
Yeah,
Really,
and-
is the
Yeah, like
supernatural
like My Bloody
stuff.
Valentine, but that's
that
not
was
like
last year.
that's not like a thing that you hold on to.
No. But yeah, so you're right. It is a very interesting shortlist of they knew the type they wanted, like, and they definitely have gone, okay, so that's who you wanted. Like you wanted a smaller actor as well. Like you didn't want an A-list, which I guess.
I mean, if you're gonna put them next to Robert Downey Jr., you probably don't want.
Yeah.
Because even though at that point he's kind of working towards rebuilding his career, everyone knows who Robert Downey Jr. is.
Absolutely.
Whether you like him or not, because of what has happened up to that point. I think it was, and obviously it turned out to be, but I think it was smart to cast Chris Hemsworth and then to go, we need another smaller but very capable actor to do this because, and especially at that point, I'm assuming they didn't have monstrous budgets to be throwing around at people.
And still at this point, actually, no, sorry. At this point, this Captain America film is still done by Paramount. It's not a Disney film yet.
Disney had influence still. I literally just read this in
because
Bob
Disney
book
had
today.
Disney had bought Disney. They had bought Marvel at this point, but only just.
Yeah.
And the original deal with Paramount was still in.
The distribution was still there.
Was still there. Avengers and Iron Man, while they have they have Paramount's name on it, are actually distributed by Disney.
Yeah, okay.
Which was part of the deal for them to get it.
But it's funny looking at the archetypes of the actors that they've gone for, because out of the Supernatural boys, to me, Jared Padalecki looks more
Like the
like,
others.
like the,
Yeah.
like the sort of the
Yeah.
very jaw, like, you know. So it's funny that Jensen Ackles was
I mean,
the one they
Jensen
went
is
for.
definitely, in my opinion,
He's
the
the better.
prettier one.
Yeah,
He's the prettier one,
and
for sure.
probably the better actor.
Probably.
I would
Probably,
say that.
yeah.
I think out of the two, he's the one who's shown
yeah.
he's got the range. I mean, there's a reason why they killed the other guy and not him, because more often
Spoilers. No, I've never seen
There's a
that.
reason that he constantly dies.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, there's the reason why they get him to do the emotion of,
Yeah.
hey,
Of
my
your
brother
your
has
brother's
just
died.
died.
Because otherwise Jared Padalecki's just like,
Guys, if you're Supernatural fans, I'm so sorry. I love Supernatural. Okay?
So do I.
Don't
I
like
just
Jared Padalecki in House of Wax. Oh, so good.
him in Friday the 13th. Not so much.
Oh, I liked that.
I'm just gonna say I love Misha Collins, and we're just gonna leave it.
All
there.
right, let's. So that's they were the three big news stories. I mean, obviously, David Goyer gets Superman. We do eventually get that film, which is actually kind of a big deal. Like, I do find loving talking about all these news stories, and you go, "Hey, this movie happened." It didn't, but you know, someone got hired to be in this movie that never happened.
Yeah.
Or we get, you know, Angelina Jolie is going to be in Gravity. No, she's not.
Which, like, yeah, we'll obviously talk about it more, but I honestly couldn't have pictured it. I think Sandra Bullock was the right choice. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think Angelina Jolie would have had I think it would have end up being too much of like a star vehicle. Like, I think it worked between Sandra Bullock and George Clooney. But I think Gravity, it would have, and obviously it's Sandra Bullock's movie, but I think it completely would have just overshadowed whoever else is in that movie.
Yeah.
With being Angelina Jolie, I think.
Possibly. Well, let's move on to Australian release dates. We got A Single Man 12 weeks after release, and we got The Blind Side 15 weeks after release. Yeah, we got Blind Side really late. The Oscars is only in like 2 weeks. So, yeah.
2020, we would have had The Blind Side so much earlier.
2020, Blind Side opens.
We would have had it
Well,
day and
that
day
would have been-
or a few weeks.
I reckon Boxing Day.
Yeah.
Boxing Day
Yeah,
movie, that
that's
would
what
have
I
been.
was thinking.
So,
But
it's...
15 weeks is, especially for a movie like that, that's, building up. Yeah. Anyway.
It's interesting. Well, guys, thank you so much for checking out this week's episode of 10 Years On. Next week, we have
Oh God.
Brooklyn's Finest and the Tim Burton classic Alice in Wonderland, and we hope you can join us for that next week. I'm so not looking forward to talking about that one.
I hope we can join us next week after watching these fucking movies.
Because that's going to be an experience. Guys, my name is Jacob Blunt, and I want to thank my wonderful panel for for suffering through this week and suffering through one and really enjoying another.
No, Nick did something.
I had a great week, thank you.
Guys, until next week, my name's been Jacob London, and we will see you next time.
See ya.